Noah Lyles, Olympic sprinter and gold medal winner this past year in the 100-meter dash, has done a video just like this one. If you've never watched any of my videos before, I take some of the top most watched videos on YouTube focusing on different topics and combine, crank up the editing, chop out all the unnecessary talking that people are gonna scroll through anyways, and make a master video, just like you're about to do right now if I don't get on with it. So we've got 10 drills to go over. Here's a rapid fire of all of them. The first thing we have to cover is positioning with most of these drills, and that's why we start with an A march. You will need a tall, upright posture, tight core, and your knees should be about the height of the waistband of your shorts or pants. The foot should be dorsiflexed or pulled up towards the shin with the ankle directly underneath the knee. This roughly 45-degree angle is incredibly important, not just for these drills, but when it comes to sprinting later on if you want to get faster. This is incorrect. This is still incorrect. The details really matter when it comes to speed in these drills. Keep the hips locked, knee up, and hit all of these angles. While working your arms in sync with the legs, you'll simply want to march, being sure to stay on the balls of your feet, hitting this position the entire time. And for the sake of the fluidity of this video, we're gonna call that position recovery position. Next, let's move on to an A skip. Take that marching motion and add in a nice smooth double bounce to the bottom foot. This being a little more challenging, be sure you don't start tucking the foot or snapping your calf towards your hamstring, which is a pretty common mistake that I see new athletes do all the time. Here's a good visual for most of these drills that really help out. I call this the 5 B's of acceleration, which is the main focus of all of these movements. First B, break the glass. Imagine you have a piece of glass sticking off the waistband of your shorts. When the knee comes up, you will need to get it to that height and with force to break the glass. Second B, break the floor or ground, driving force down. These 2 B's combined will create the third B, which is a big movement, and not just a big movement, but a big movement fast. A big movement done fast will create more force to drive you forward when sprinting after these drills, as long as when you hit the ground, you strike on the ball of the foot and the foot bounces. These are the last 2 B's, ball of the foot and bounce. This all put together means you are driving as much force into the ground as you can, and when bouncing the foot off the ground quickly, more force will essentially come back to you, so you get to go forward faster when sprinting, or in this case, these drills. After the A skip, we go into some light reactive pogos. On the balls of your feet, forcibly punch down and get off the ground as quick as possible. We want to prep the knees and ankles for the speed and intensity which the drills later on will require, where again, you need to put force on the ground, all while reducing ground contact time. I haven't said this yet, but for most of these drills, you're going to want to do them from anywhere between 15 and 20 yards. Now we go to straight leg bounds. Transferring that bounce into more movement. There will be 2 styles of these bounds in the video. This one is meant to be tall and bouncy in comparison to the other, which is more speed focused that we'll go over later on. With a tall center of gravity on the balls of your feet, keep your legs rigid and ankles stiff. Bounce while alternating on each leg and moving forward. Think about swinging your foot out or shin and snapping it back underneath your hips to go forward. The foot on all of these drills should be underneath of you when making contact with the ground. And with this one, think pull with the hamstrings. Number 5, we go into a Highy Chop. I think most people are pretty familiar with the Highy Chop, but for the sake of these drills, there's a few specifics that need to be focused on to get the most out of the concept. I would say the majority of people, when they do a Highy Chop, in a general sense, snap their calf more towards their hamstring, closing up this space and not again hitting recovery position. But when doing a Highy Chop here, you want to repetitively hit recovery position on each rep. You can even call these recovery repeats. And you should also see a trend here at this point, which that movement is harder said than done. Let's quickly go over the importance of why I'm focusing so much on recovery position. When sprinting or accelerating to go faster, your leg should also be hitting that position on each stride. Whereas oftentimes an untrained or unknowing athlete, when it comes to proper sprinting mechanics, instead snaps their foot straight underneath their butt, closing up this space you see here, which will force them to land on their steps versus punch and push them forward. Hitting recovery position at the proper angle, keeping the foot low to the ground when sprinting, is basically 2 movements versus improper mechanics, which is more like 3. 2 movements allows for more time and space to get the leg up into a good striking position. This allowing you to cover more distance, all while increasing the capacity to put more force into the ground on the correct part of the foot. Now back to the drill. Try to be sure not to lean. Stay on the balls of the feet, keep your arms moving quickly with the legs, and bounce your foot off the ground each rep. Being this drill is probably the most similar to running, you really want to focus on your technique and speed. If you don't look like me, something's off. And the leg should really be moving here. You want to crank the speed on this one. Number 6, getting into the more advanced side of these drills. A single leg bounce with recovery switches. Lock your up leg into position, all while maintaining a strong upright posture. Bounce on the bottom foot going forward slowly. Then every 2 to 3 bounces, snap down hard and fast into the ground, repeating the process to the other leg. This one can be challenging in keeping a good rhythm. A steady bounce moving forward, but not too fast, and keeping the top leg locked into the proper position without slouching over. You should be moving smooth, light, and quickly, snapping the ground with force. not moving forward too quickly, as the focus should be more on the bounce, your positioning or posture, and the speed at which you're snapping down. Then we have one more pogo variation. This one's targeting even more ground force and pop off the ground up in the air. A little pogo bounce into a big one. I just call these little big pogos. Your arms should stay in sync with the up on the big bounce. Legs stiff, heels off the ground, trying to put as much force into the ground on the second bounce to get up as high as possible. This is the only one I would say skip that 10 to 15 yard cue and just do it for 8 reps for 1 to 2 sets. You will maximize the height of the big bounce or pogo by hitting hard, staying tight, and scooping your arms up to drive you higher. The arms are key here for max height and bounce. So you have to kind of get the rhythm. You need to get the rhythm, and you scoop up as you go up, and they go down as you go down. The next one we go into is the other variation of the straight leg bound. But instead of it just being tall and bouncy, you'll want to pull and move forward as fast as possible, gaining speed with the distance you travel. Your center of gravity needs to be as high as you can maintain on this bound, really forcing yourself upright on the balls of your feet. This tall center of gravity will allow you to stay lighter on the ground to pull or bounce you forward faster. Then lastly, we have the final two, which are definitely the hardest of the bunch, and basically combining all of the other drills together. A straight leg bound with recovery switches. Home base, or the foundation here, is a tall bouncy bound like the first one. While maintaining the same position and one leg still bounding, the other leg is going to snap up into recovery position and then punch back down. I relate this drill to the concept of rubbing your head while patting your belly at the same time. You most likely aren't going to be perfect or even feel like you can coordinate this movement together in the beginning. I suggest when starting, realize that home base is within the bound and to not worry too much about the speed at which you're switching or the rate. It really doesn't have to be every rep, but over time, once you start getting the hang of it, you can really snap out some good speed into the switches, actually driving some force into the ground and switching explosively. And the final one, we have regular bounds. With an upright posture, you'll want to drive up into recovery position with the top leg and punch or push back down to drive you forward. That top leg, when driving down, should get nice and long, propelling you forward as it pushes into the ground, all while being patient. It should look slightly deer-like and explosive in nature in accordance with how fast your turnover is, which simply means you're trying to cover as much ground per stride versus quickly attacking the ground. Think power versus just speed. You need to, again, be patient and how fast you're turning over the legs to allow you to cover more distance per stride as you push off. That's it. Those are the drills, but don't switch off yet. I have 2 key factors, less than 20 seconds, that are going to be very important. You're going to want to utilize in order to maximize the full potential of all these drills and get faster. First of all, these drills require a skill set, which takes repetition and time. Most of the high-end track athletes use them as drills, but also in their warm-up. That being said, if you're not a track athlete, you should utilize these drills in your warm-up at least 1 time per week. The frequency and structure you can work on the skill set of each movement is paramount in consistently improving, which also means you need to give effort into each one once you get slightly warmed up. Don't just go through the motions because these are in a warm-up. You don't want to be lazy. You want to be snappy and explosive, and then doing that frequently will translate into your actual speed. That's it. Any questions below, comment, I will answer. If there's any other topics you'd like me to do a video on, I'll do it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you in the next one.